According to the American Psychological Association, APA, trauma can be described as an emotional response to a terrible event, like an accident, a rape, a war, or a natural disaster. A person can experience trauma as an emotional response to any event they find physically or emotionally harmful. They can feel a range of emotions both immediately after the event and on a long term. Now we know that trauma has a long-term effect on a person's well-being, and so if symptoms persist or it becomes severe, it's an indication that the trauma has developed into a mental health disorder called the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. My name is Pearl Oko, and you're welcome to my channel. Here we talk about mental health, holistic living, self-awareness and personal development, and also spirituality. And we'll be talking about how to heal from an emotional trauma in just minutes. So if you're new here, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button as we get right into our discussion for today. So there are several types of trauma, as we know. There's an acute trauma, there's a chronic trauma, there's a complex trauma, and there's also the secondary or the vicarious trauma. The acute trauma has to do with one person or a person experiencing one stressful event that can happen almost immediately, and it can have an instant impact. So there's a chronic trauma. A chronic trauma has to do with someone experiencing a single stressful event for a prolonged period of time. Let's say someone experiences an abuse for a prolonged period of time, or experiences bullying for a prolonged period of time. There's also the complex trauma, which has to do with being exposed to different terrible events within a space of time or on a long period of time. Say being losing a loved one, losing a child, being bullied, being abused verbally, emotionally, anything, experiencing several terrifying events within a period of time. That has to do with the complex trauma. And then for the vicarious or the secondary trauma, I think you see this kind of trauma in family members. A vicarious trauma has to do with developing trauma symptoms just by being close to someone who has experienced a traumatic event. So you can see this in family members, healthcare professionals, therapists, and also people who care for people that have been traumatized or have experienced traumatic events. Now, there are certain factors that determine how a traumatic event can affect a person, and these symptoms can, range from mild to severe, depending on their characteristics, the characteristics of the person involved. Are they too emotional? Are they easy to be afraid? Are they grounded? Are they easily manipulated? So it depends on their characteristics. It depends on the presence of other health conditions. So anyone could be suffering from a mental health condition. They could be previously traumatized. So it depends on the presence of a previous mental health condition. Also, it depends on the kind of traumatic event, or if they have had a previous exposure to a traumatic event anyways, just like being traumatized before. Then it depends on how severe the event is, how intense, how horrible and terrifying the event is. It also depends on how their approach is to life generally, their background, how they were raised, their mindsets, and other beliefs concerning the individual. These things can determine how a particular event, the effects of the trauma a particular event can have on someone. They can have different response. They can have an emotional and psychological response, and they could also have a physical response. The emotional and psychological responses could be feeling of anger, denial, fear, sadness, hopelessness, numbness, guilt, difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, depression, and confusion, shame, and a whole bunch of that. And for the physical response, which I like to think is where and how diseases come to be, the origins of diseases. The physical response someone can have to traumatic events can be in form of headache, digestive problem, fatigue, racing heart palpitations, sweating, and feeling jumpy or easily shaken, to say. So you see that these people might find themselves in a constant state of alertness, and this may make it difficult for them to concentrate, sleep, or even be alone by themselves. Now, what are these traumatic experiences that we've been talking about? They could be bullying, harassment, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, sexual assault, war, childbirth, life-threatening illnesses, being kidnapped, losing a loved one, terrorism, natural disasters, you name it. It's crazy. And so you must understand that people experience trauma differently. People have different reactions to traumatic events. For example, a person who has experienced some natural disaster can have a different response from another person who has experienced the same event. And so there are several treatments that one can use in coping with their symptoms to improve the quality of their life. There's a therapy, which is like the first line of treatment. Seeing a therapist, talking to your therapist can help in elevating the traumatic symptoms and the stress that comes with it. Also, there's a self-care therapy, which I feel like everyone should be able to incorporate in their life. That should be a lifestyle, basically. Self-care actually helps improve the quality of your life and well-being generally. Self-care could be, exercising daily, eating a balanced diet, having quality sleep, say 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, practicing mindfulness in breathing, mindfulness in meditating, avoiding alcohol and drugs that induce anxiety in people easily, engaging in social activities. These are like self-care practices to incorporate in one's lifestyle. And then there's a medication, which is not my favorite at all, so we won't be getting right into it because I'm not interested. And these are the treatments that can help one cope with their symptoms and improve the quality of their life. And now I say cope because that is not what we're going to be talking about today. What we'll be talking about today is how to heal effectively from an emotional trauma. And so the effective way to heal from an emotional trauma under minutes is using energy, basically. Yes, I said it. We often associate trauma with something that only occurs in the mind and is stored in our body. Like I said in my previous video, the memories aren't just stored in our mind, it's stored all over our body through something called the cellular memories. And so because memory is stored all over the body, trauma is experienced physically by people in form of headaches, like I said, numbness, dizziness, feeling depressed, having digestive problems actually. And because trauma is stored in our body, it simply doesn't go away. Trauma stored in the body simply doesn't go away, and so it has an effect on our body because it changes our vibrational frequency. Like when you feel sad, it's a different vibrational frequency than when you're happy. And so when someone is traumatized and they recall the events or they act in a certain way due to the memory stored in the cell affecting the body, they disseminate a different frequency at a certain time when they recall that particular event. So according to a piece I saw online, it says our esoteric body, thinking chakras and aura, that's our aura, our esoteric body can hold on to energy when we experience trauma. If it's not processed, it can lead to mental, emotional, and sometimes physical blockages and discomfort. During Reiki, now Reiki is an energy healing practice by the Japanese. During Reiki, the key Ki means energy. The ki helps move this stagnant energy, out of our energetic system, replacing it with pure source energy. Now, basically, what this means is healing an emotional trauma using energy simply means you are putting back an opposite frequency to cancel out whatever vibrational frequency that trauma makes your body release. Let's say you're traumatized by an accident you had years back, and it leaves you feeling afraid to drive. It leaves you feeling scared to even be in a car, right? So what you want to do is create an opposite image. Create an opposite image to release the opposite vibrational frequency, channeling it back to your body to cancel out the fear, that you experience because of how traumatized you are in the previous accident. I do this often, and it helped me because as a child I grew up hating the dark. I couldn't sleep in the dark, and it wasn't up until 2 years ago I healed from that memory. And I realized that the reason I couldn't sleep in the dark was that I used to feel ghosts would come at night to take me or hurt me, or that there were spirits watching, and that if I didn't leave the lights on, they would be able to hurt me or attack me. And so what I had to do was to start with a meditative practice. You might want to have an affirmation to say, or something to say before you start in a meditative position or meditative state. Now what you want to do is to create an image, an opposite image of what you already have, an opposite belief of what you already believe, and channel it back to your body to cancel out the energy that particular belief disseminates, the vibrational frequency. For those of you that know physics, let's say this is the sine wave for my fear of sleeping in the dark, right? Let's say this is the sine wave for my fear of sleeping in the dark. What I want to do is to create an opposite wave to cancel this out. Now, what happens when you create an opposite wave for this? When you create an opposite sine wave, this is what you have. And when this happens, this is what you have. You basically have a straight line. For those of you who are good with your physics, I think this is how noise cancelling headphones are created, or noise cancelling devices are created. When you hit a sine wave with an opposite, you have a straight line. So this is how energy healing basically works. What you want to do is to create an opposite image of whatever it is that you have. So what I did was to start creating an image of me sleeping comfortably with the lights off, smiling, enjoying my sleep, having a healthy sleep in the dark. It was almost impossible because I couldn't even imagine it. It was so scary. And at first I started with like a minute meditation and 2 minutes, and then I went from 10 minutes, 30 minutes to longer. And in less than a week, I'm not even joking, in less than a week, I was sleeping in the dark. I didn't even like my lights on. I couldn't even sleep at the slightest, visibility of light anywhere. And so what you want to do is to stay in a quiet place that can help you meditate and focus. You might want to do it in a very comfortable position, sitting down or lying, or any position that is comfortable for you. So I basically do mine sitting down or on the bed first thing in the morning. So how I do mine is to you might want to have to put your hands together, because everyone has a vital force of energy in their hands. This is your mode of transmission. You would have to put your hands together in a prayer state, and you would want to leave a little bit of space in between to allow energy pass through. So having held your hands this way, you close your eyes and then you start to focus. I do mine with an affirmation. You can come up with any affirmation that is best for you. My own personal affirmation that I learned from the healing code, the book The Healing Code by Alexander Lloyd, is it says, I pray that all known and unknown negative images, all unhealthy beliefs, all destructive cellular memories, and all physical issues related to you insert the problem, let's say related to my fear of sleeping in the dark, because I always think spirits will come and hurt me, no matter how long it is, just infuse it, would be healed, found, and opened by filling me with the love, the life, and the light of God. Now, this is my personal affirmation, and you can always come up with whatever works for you. The reason you do this is you prepare your mind, or you prepare your subconscious, your consciousness, to bring forth all those images that it has stored up in the body, so that you can be able to address them. So what you want to do is to say the affirmation first, put your hands together, and in a meditative state, start to observe all the images that come up. You will notice that most of the images that come up are the ones that has been stored up in your cells, in your body, for a long period of time. And so what you want to start doing now is to imagine the opposites. Say me, when I was doing mine for sleeping in the dark, I started imagining sleeping comfortably in the dark, enjoying myself in it, turning off my lights. It was difficult at first, but with time it became much more easier. And you notice that as you start to imagine these things, you start to feel a certain way. You start to release the opposite energy in your palms, and now it's going directly back to your body, and it's canceling out that vibrational frequency that the other memory releases. So what this does, it doesn't take away the memory. Actually, no, it doesn't. The memory is still there, but it heals the effects that memory has on you. That's basically what it does. So this is how you do it. You can do it for 5 minutes, morning, afternoon, night, 10 minutes. You can go as long as you want, and you can incorporate it as a lifestyle. So healing emotional trauma through energy is the most effective way for me, and I think it's easier. It only takes time and patience, because as you start, you might think you aren't progressing. And the most amazing thing about this is you don't even have to try so hard to forget, or say, oh, okay, I just want to forget about this memory, I don't want it to have any effect on me. You don't even need to affirm it, or constantly write it down somewhere. When you do this, it takes it away effortlessly. You just notice yourself not being in that state of fear, in that state of anxiety. It takes it away completely. You become a new person. So you can do this for anything you're any emotional trauma, any belief, anything you want to change from, any habits, by simply creating an exact opposite of what you want to heal from, basically through meditation and through putting your palms together. That is transferring energy back to your body. Voila. So you see, it's actually as easy as ABC. Let me know if you find this video helpful by leaving a comment in the comment section. Also share this video to whoever you feel needs to watch, and please do not forget to subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. See you guys next time. Bye.